Sometimes competitive Pokemon players get things very wrong, and I'm guilty of this myself. There are many examples of Pokemon that get hyped up before release, like Hisuian Goodra. Everybody thought Hisuian Goodra would be amazing. When it actually came out, it wasn't that great. It failed to live up to the hype. And the inverse thing happens as well. Pokemon that fly under the radar completely or are actively considered bad, that outdo our expectations, and end up being great competitive Pokemon. Let's take a look at some examples of that. Pokemon that nobody thought would rise to the top, but ended up becoming very popular and solid competitive Pokemon, against all odds. Now, the first and most significant example of a Pokemon that everybody underestimated, myself included, has got to be Pecharunt. People were insulting this Pokemon left, right, and center when it came out, and I was among them. I thought this Pokemon was an absolute runt, living up to its name. This is a weird Pokemon. It's a poison ghost type with an odd stat distribution, wouldn't you say? 88 in every stat except for defense, which is 160. Pecharunt has an interesting gimmick. It has the ability Poison Puppeteer. If Pecharunt poisons an enemy, they will also be confused. Pecharunt also has the signature move Malignant Chain, which is a crazy move. A poison type attack with 100 power and 100 accuracy, with a 50% chance to inflict toxic poison. And remember, you poison the enemy and they also get confused. So Pecharunt has the identity of a bit of a trickster, inflicting poison and confusion on enemies and causing a little bit of frustration. But when I first saw this, I couldn't shake the fact that this seems to match up so poorly against an incredibly common Pokemon, Goldengo. Because Goldengo is immune to poison, and Pecharunt's other option of Parting Shot, the pivoting option on switch-ins, is also ineffective against Goldengo. Goldengo's immune to that. I thought that Pecharunt was Goldengo food, I'll be honest. I thought Goldengo would absolutely farm this and prevent it from doing much. I also couldn't help but notice that Pecharunt seems to match up poorly against King Gambit, the other incredibly common central presence that threatens you with Kowtow, Cleave, and Sucker Punch. Doesn't help that King Gambit is also immune to poison. And to my credit, Pecharunt took a while to rise to OU status. It wasn't that popular at first, but Pecharunt eventually rose up to solve a very important problem in the format. Because Pecharunt happens to be an excellent check to two dominant threats, those being Ogerpon Wellspring and Zamazenta. Pecharunt is a great switch into Ogerpon Wellspring because of its grass resistance and massive defense stat. It's one of the few things in the game that can actually reliably come in against Ogerpon Wellspring, directly threaten it, and also do stuff to the switch-ins afterwards. So that's a big deal. Ogerpon Wellspring is very powerful and very popular. And so is Zamazenta, another central presence in Gen 9 OU. Zamazenta, of course, relies on its plus defense and body press combo. Pecharunt is immune to body press and has such a massive defense stat that even a super effective crunch is going to be shrugged off. And Pecharunt threatens to poison and confuse and even hex enemy Zamazenta. With Pecharunt's reliable recovery, the ability to pivot and spread poison to various things, while checking these two important threats, it actually rose to be one of the most common Pokemon in the format in high-level tournaments. And Pecharunt proved to be more useful than just that too, because this massive defense stat kinda helps against any old physical threat. Even if they have super effective coverage for you, Pecharunt can take a hit and poison the guy and confuse them at the same time. It's very fast too. For something with such high defense, 88 base speed is actually decent for something with this high defense. So Pecharunt can crucially outrun Great Tusk and just hit him with a Malignant Chain. You actually live Headlong Rush, which is kind of amazing, and you got the poison chance and the confusion chance to help you there. Some players even just run Toxic on this because this is perfectly accurate since poison types can't miss Toxic, and it will just always poison them and always confuse them. Pretty great into the Tusker since you just have a 50-50 shot to dodge Headlong Rush completely, and you live it anyway in the worst case. It's not a bad move to Toxic the Great Tusk, not at all. Pecharunt can also save your skin against various physical threats like Dragonite, who crucially can't hit you with extreme speed. And you know, maybe Cinderace or Hisuian Samurott or whoever else. Turns out that confusing and poisoning something at the same time is a powerful idea. And even though Goldengo can switch in against Pecharunt, Pecharunt can at least hex the guy on the way in, or Shadow Ball if you'd rather run that to maybe break their balloon, supporting your teammates, and I'm surely you're running a Goldango switch in, it's Gen 9 OU. Many things can't touch Goldango, it doesn't instantly make them bad, and Pecharunt can do much more beyond this, so that makes it great. And I suppose Pecharunt's value wasn't immediately obvious looking at it at a glance, but it ended up slotting into the metagame very well and proving itself powerful in ways we couldn't necessarily predict. We had to see it in practice and allow it to adapt to the metagame over some time for it to truly rise to its proper position. Another Pokemon that everybody was wrong about was Iron Crown. And when you look at this at a glance, it does kind of just look average and nothing special. Iron Crown is a new future paradox form of Cobalion with the ability Quark Drive like all the other ones, and a Steel Psychic typing, which isn't fantastic in modern times. This used to be a great typing, but now there are so many Dark and Ghost types running around. It's a tough typing to have in certain scenarios. The stats are also nothing particularly outstanding, and this is another one like Pecharunt that took a while for people to realize how good it was. But Iron Crown started to rise in usage because people discovered that this happened to be a nice combination of bulky, offensively threatening, and having a positive matchup into multiple relevant top-tier threats. Kinda similar to Pecharunt. One thing that Iron Crown had going for it was its signature move, Tachyon Cutter. This is a Steel-type double-hit move. It has 50 power and it hits twice. This was useful against Glimmora, who commonly runs a Focus Sash to try and live an incoming hit. Tachyon Cutter hits twice, breaking the Focus Sash on the first hit and KOing on the second hit. This was also good against Ribombee. Both of these Pokemon are weak to Steel, so a multi-hit Steel move is perfect. And this also has its value against substitute users who are quite common, and various other things that run Focus Sash. Iron Crown also happens to be a very nice check against Iron Valiant, one of the top threats of the format. Iron Crown has a fairy resistance and is neutral to fighting, covering the two stab types, and with an Assault Vest equipped you can even shrug off a lot of different coverage options. Tachyon Cutter threatens them super effectively, and Iron Crown also has high special attack and some options that apply pressure. You have Volt Switch, which is a fantastic pivoting option to keep momentum up on a defensive switch-in, and you have Future Sight, which is a great progress-making and wall-breaking tool. Future Sight is a high-power, 120 base power special attack that hits 2 turns after being used. It makes things very awkward for the opponent as they are inclined to switch into something that is immune to or resists Psychic on the turn that they know it will hit. But what if you have something that threatens those limited switch-ins? You gotta choose between a rock and a hard place, either taking a massive power attack from this Iron Crown here, who does have a rather high special attack, or you have to switch into something unfavorable and put yourself in danger. Assault Vest Iron Crown is a rare, specially defensive switch-in that can also output some offense, and is also quite fast. This combination of aggression, wall-breaking potential, positive matchups against a bunch of important things, and even the ability to pivot, ended up being strong competitively. So Iron Crown maintains its OU position, and it is still popular in the current format, in the current metagame. There are other sets on this too, like Choice Specs and the Weakness Policy sets, but the Assault Vest, I think, is the real reason for Iron Crown's high usage. Another Pokemon that flew under the radar for many players was Alomomola. Alomomola has existed for a long time, since Generation 5, but it has never been great competitively. Alomomola seems to have a lot of positive traits, with the ability Regenerator, which is a fantastic defensive ability, and its high HP and mono water typing, which are usually good, but Alomomola is often outclassed by other similar Regenerator water types in other metagames, whether those be Slowbro or Toxapex or what have you. But in Gen 9, Alomomola actually outclassed all of those former competitors and became the elite Regenerator water type, and one of the best defensive pivots in the game. When Alomomola first returned to the metagame, the player Pinkacross really shone some spotlight onto it with its incredible potential as a defensive pivot, and ended up reaching number 1 in the world with an Alomomola team. And this really brought the potential of the Pokemon to the forefront. Alomomola is one of the few things that learns Scald. Still, a lot of stuff lost access to Scald. Crucially, Toxapex lost access to Scald, but Alomomola kept it. And Scald is of course an incredibly strong move that can attack and burn the enemy at the same time with its high 30% burn chance. Also thaws you out if you happen to get frozen, which can come up. Alomomola also has Flip Turn, a pivoting move, and this is a significant get. I mean, Toxapex didn't even have this. A pivoting option on a defensive regenerator Pokemon is massive. It allows this Pokemon to take a hit, switch out, heal the damage they just took, and could get a completely safe entry for an ally who might struggle to switch onto the field. And that is incredible for enabling balanced teams and bulky offense strategies. And the real kicker is that this guy also gets Wish, which is a way to heal up allies and combos so well with Flip Turn. You click Wish, you then Flip Turn to switch out, and you have just completely safely healed up a teammate. And what's even better about this is that Alomomola has such a high HP stat, so it's gonna heal for a huge amount with Wish. Wish heals for the user's max HP, not the recipient, so you'll often fully heal something when you Flip Turn it. Even though Alomomola has some tough matchups, especially Ogerpon Wellspring, overall it is one of the most excellent defensive Pokemon in Gen 9 OU, and it is kind of the new Toxapex of the generation. It has outclassed all of those other Pokemon that used to fill its shoes. By the way, I always get confused comments when I say this Pokemon's name, but I think I'm saying it right. I think they're the ones that are wrong. This is Alomomola. I'm saying each syllable here. I'm saying each letter. Is it Alomomola? Is it Alomomola? Alomomola? I think I'm right and you're wrong, unfortunately, this time. Anyway, I know I just said that Alomomola became the new premier bulky water-type Pokemon and pivot, but there is one other competitor that rose to the forefront. That was Primarina, a starter Pokemon from all the way back in Gen 7 that was never really popular and competitive back then. Primarina was always outclassed by Tapu Fini, who has the same typing, but the much superior ability Misty Surge to create misty terrain on the field and shield your whole team from status, as well as superior utility like Defog, etc. Even though Primarina has an amazing typing and a lot going for it, it was never that competitively great. Until Gen 9, that is, because now that Tapu Fini isn't here, Primarina has risen to take its place, and we have truly seen how good a Water Fairy typing actually is. Primarina's stats are decent. The 116 special defense is certainly doing some heavy lifting, a great special attack stat. The rest of the stats are average, but this is a solid enough foundation along with this incredibly elite typing of Water Fairy to be worthwhile competitively. Primarina also received Flip Turn back in Gen 8, and this is feeling like a fantastic option in Gen 9 as well, since having this incredible defensive profile and the ability to pivot is an absolute asset. Primarina sets itself apart from Alomomola with its superior offensive presence, with access to Stab Moonblast, a hard-hitting Surf, and even the new option of Psychic Noise, allowing it to do a bit of wall breaking sometimes. Enemies like Clodsire might be frightened to switch in on Primarina because of this, as Psychic Noise is a Psychic-type special attack that prevents the enemy from healing. This also blocks Regenerator from taking place and other healing effects like that. Even the healing from Drain Punch or other such effects get completely gutted. With this typing and an Assault Vest, Primarina is an excellent check to Pokemon like Darkrai and Dragapult, who are everywhere in the metagame, and Primarina can use this defensive switch-in to apply a bit of pressure itself and pivot out of the field too. Primarina can even use the ability Liquid Voice if it wants. Torrent is usually a good option to boost Surf when you're at low health, but Liquid Voice can be useful to turn Psychic Noise into a Water-type attack. Liquid Voice turns all sound-based moves into Water-type attacks, and Psychic Noise can then become a form of Water Stab and this heal blocking effect. 2 for the price of 1, and it frees up the moveset for some other option, like perhaps Ice Beam or other such coverage. Now, people didn't necessarily think Primarina would be terrible when it returned to the game, and all these options looked promising, but I personally didn't expect it to survive in OU for this long and be so as excellent as it ended up being. It exceeded my expectations, and it has continued to thrive in the metagame. It probably will continue to do so. It's a great Pokemon. Another unexpected OU status Pokemon in Gen 9 is Arequanid. Arequanid is ranked in OU for the first time in its career. It's currently the only bug type in OU. Can you believe it? I certainly didn't expect this. Arequanid's been around in Gen 7, and it's never been that great, but in Gen 9, Arequanid has found its footing for the first time, as the best sticky web setter currently in the game. Now for a while, Ribombee held this title, and Ribombee is historically one of the most popular sticky web setters in the game, because it's fast, it has the fairy typing, and it even has shield dust, which comes in handy, plus extra utility like stun spore. But the whole Iron Crown debacle has kind of ruined Ribombee, and as people adapted to Ribombee, it started to struggle a little bit more to achieve the value it used to achieve. Arequanid, on the other hand, was able to sidestep many of the issues Ribombee faced as a sticky web setter. Arequanid's water bug typing is actually pretty good against a lot of common leads in Gen 9. You have ground resistance, which is crucial against Gliscor and Great Tusk and Iron Treads, and you also have fighting resistance. Arequanid's ability Water Bubble is actually one of the best abilities in the entire game, granting 2x power to water type moves, burn immunity, and halved damage from fire type attacks incoming. It does a lot in one, and even though Arequanid only has 50 base special attack, thanks to Water Bubble, you're actually doing significant damage with Surf because you're doubling the damage. So even though Arequanid's higher attacking stat is its physical attack, not its special attack, Surf ends up being a great fit in this metagame because of how much more threatening it is to common leads, like Great Tusk, Gliscor, etc. Ribombee is not able to lethally threaten these Pokemon. Arequanid also, on top of all that, has randomly really high special bulk, which allows it to live a lot of incoming hits on turn 1. It's kind of difficult to one-hit KO an Arequanid and get rid of its ability to make sticky web. And what's also nice about Arequanid is that it kind of has the perfect bulk range to run a Kustap Berry. It's often hit down to the range of the Kustap Berry, which activates and lets it move first in its priority bracket on the next turn. Arequanid can then use Endeavor to bring the enemy's health extremely low, getting a little bit more value than just sitting sticky web. You can throw out a Surf. And to improve the consistency of this Kustap Berry activating, you can also run Endure, which allows you to survive on 1 HP and then consume the Kustap Berry safely next turn. This has survived for a while in OU now, and it's just a great aggressive lead that is very consistent. We're seeing a trend here where a lot of these Pokemon rose up to OU status over time as people realized how well they fit into the evolving metagame. I personally love stuff like this. The Arequanid rise is a fun story, isn't it? A random Pokemon from Gen 7 that just happens to fit well in the Gen 9 OU climate and continues to do so. Arequanid being OU is one of the strangest things you can show to old Pokemon players. They will probably be shocked at the sight if they're not familiar with Gen 9, but it's the truth. This is a highly used aggro lead. Another example of a Pokemon that many people thought was not cut out for OU is Tinkaton. And I want to give myself some credit here because I have always had faith in Tinkaton. Many other people didn't, but I always did. And I believe Tinkaton to be one of the greatest designs in Gen 9 OU. I love this Pokemon. I think it's excellent. But there are many posts I've seen online and memes and whatnot about how Tinkaton should be buffed. A lot of people said they should give this guy huge power. They should give it more stats. It's not good enough. We need to buff Tinkaton. Well, look who's laughing now. This guy has risen up to OU through hard work and dedication on its own merits without needing power creep stats and broken abilities like huge power to thrive. Tinkaton can do it on her own without all that crap. Tinkaton's typing is Fairy Steel, which is probably the best typing you can get in the whole game. It's amazing with 2 incredible immunities, so many resistances, just such value out of this typing. It's doing a lot. Tinkaton is a very good disruptive lead with its air balloon, because very little can actually threaten it, and it is good at setting hazards and crippling enemies with Thunder Wave and Encore, or hitting them hard with Gigaton Hammer. What's nice about air balloon on Tinkaton is that it can activate its ability Pickpocket after the air balloon is popped. Pickpocket is an ability that will steal the attacker's item if you're not holding an item and they just made contact with you. And conveniently, as soon as the enemy hits you, they pop your air balloon, meaning you have no item, and then you steal their item. So Tinkaton is doing item removal just by existing. It's making hazards. It's also walling a lot of important stuff. It's walling fairy types, sometimes poison types. So in a world where it's actually kind of hard to be an aggressive rock setter, Tinkaton is doing a little bit more than just that. Encore helps a lot in this format where King Gambit can sweep entire teams with Sucker Punch alone. Encore traps them into spamming Sucker Punch, which obviously basically forces them out. They can't really stay in. Your typing is great into King Gambit. You can paralyze them, Encore them, punish them for Swords Dancing or Sucker Punching. It's just very hard to not get value out of a Tinkaton with this set. It's doing a lot with a little, and even though Tinkaton has pretty average stats for Gen 9, the typing, all the utility it has, and just all these little things add up to make Tinkaton a great choice. It's also nice that Tinkaton has a great additional ability, Mold Breaker, which ignores the effects of enemy abilities. And this is the more popular one initially, actually. The Pickpocket technology came into existence a bit later. Mold Breaker was the main appeal of Tinkaton initially, and it's still a great way to go. You can Stealth Rock, not worry about Hatterene. Blocking it with Magic Bounce, you can Thunder Wave enemies like Garganical and Goldengo, ignoring their status immunity granting abilities. And isn't that wonderful? And the final Pokemon I want to talk about in this video is Baxcalibur, a very interesting case. Because actually, this Pokemon fell down to UU for a time, the tier below OU. But at the moment, the Pokemon is banned. How the hell did that happen? How did a ban-worthy Pokemon fall down to UU in the past? Nobody realized how good it was? Well, kind of. Baxcalibur is an incredibly powerful looking new Pokemon, isn't it? It's a Dragon Ice type with monstrous stats. 145 base attack is through the roof. It even has significant bulk, pretty solid defenses all things considered, and an 87 speed stat. And this guy is a Dragon Dance sweeper. It has Dragon Dance and an incredible physical move, Pull, with Icicle Crash or Icicle Spear as Ice Physical Stab. Glaive Rush is its exclusive Dragon type attack, which is really good actually. It's like a better version of Outrage. It has 120 power and 100 accuracy with the drawback that you will take double damage on the next turn. Kind of a fine drawback that goes away, unlike, a close combat debuff or an Outrage that locks you in. It's more flexible than Outrage. And you have Earthquake, crucially. Without Earthquake, a lot of physical threats can't sweep properly, because you need Earthquake to hit the Steel types, but Baxcalibur has it. On top of all of this, Baxcalibur also has the ability Thermal Exchange, which grants a complete immunity to Burn. It's actually a very good effect, because Burn is one of the most common ways to deal with Pokemon exactly like this. And on top of that, if you get hit by a fire move, you gain an attack boost. That's pretty good too. That comes up sometimes. So why wasn't Baxcalibur excellent immediately? Well, in the early Gen 9 metagame, there were more broken things than this. Remember, there was Palafin running around for a time. There was Chi-Yu and Chen-Pao wreaking havoc. Iron Bundle existed briefly. You had Espathra. You had Annihilate. So there were a bunch of Pokemon that were distracting from how broken Baxcalibur was. They were all more powerful and more pressing. Baxcalibur seemed to be a little bit tame by comparison. This guy's at least slow. It's weak to Stealth Rock. It can be beaten with speed, checking, and other such things. But even when a lot of that stuff got banned, Baxcalibur was still kind of struggling a little bit, or at least it wasn't super overwhelming. But then Baxcalibur really rose to prominence when DLC introduced some crucial returning faces to the game. Alola Ninetales as a teammate ended up being amazing alongside Baxcalibur, because Alola Ninetales could set Snow on the field, and Snow grants a defense boost to Ice types. Alola Ninetales could also set Aurora Veil on the field to increase the bulk of your teammates, and this made Baxcalibur incredibly difficult to deal with, because with a defense boost from the Snow and additional defense and special defense boosts from the Aurora Veil, became extremely difficult to actually defeat Baxcalibur. The guy can't be burned, it's just inherently immune to burn. It can terrestrialize to avoid super effective damage incoming, and not many things in the game get Toxic or Thunder Wave to cripple this guy, and even then it could run a Lumberry if you want. So the addition of that Alola Ninetales is what really pushed Baxcalibur over the edge and made it so much more powerful, to where it had to be banned. It is a little funny looking back and seeing people's initial impressions of Baxcalibur. There was a sentiment back then that this was kind of a bad Pokemon. It was overrated or overhyped. People would even use it as like a novelty, like, wow, look at this team that made a Baxcalibur work. But Looking back, that seems naive, now that we know how truly powerful Baxcalibur would become. There you have it, folks. Pokemon we thought would be terrible that exceeded our expectations and more. Which is your favorite of these, minus Tinkaton? What would you like me to talk about next? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.